just so I can show you what I'm talking about. This is a very well-defined area, right? There are particular GPS coordinates that distinguish the park from other things, so it makes sense to talk about this as a community that's prescribed by specific geographic regions. However, the park itself also has communities within this larger community that are also very prescribed, right? We have the old field here, which was abandoned 11 years ago. We have a series of fields here that were abandoned 4 years ago. We have this area here, and then these areas. We have areas that could be defined by closeness to this duck run or creek. So these areas are very, very prescribed, right? I know exactly where they are. There are GPS coordinates that define them. Now, we could define the diversity of each of these unique communities, right? The old field, I could do the wetland here, I could do the lakeshore habitat, I could do forested habitat. I could figure out what the richness of each of these is. And again, I don't have a lot of time and a lot of money, so my approach to diversity is going to be a richness approach. I just want to count things. Or count presence or absence. I don't want to count the number of individuals. It's, okay, there's an oak tree, there's a maple tree. I don't want to know how many there are. I just want to know that they're there. So we're going to use a richness approach to get at diversity. I'm getting at species diversity by basically counting the number of species that are there. Okay? All right, so I went ahead and made up some numbers here. Let's do the old field. Let's do the forested area. And let's do the wetland. Okay? And then let's say that I found a number of species within the park. I found N species. That's 5, 10, that's 19 species overall that I've seen in the park, but I didn't see all these species in all of these different communities. So I'm going to go ahead and just make some stuff up here. And then from F to L, G, H, I, J, K, L. And then in the last one, L, M, N. Okay? So, richness in the old field. Richness is going to equal 10 for the first community. The forested community, the richness is 7. And for my wetland community, the richness is 3. Okay? Now, I have these discrete communities that I'm looking at, so I'm going to call this type of diversity alpha diversity. Alpha diversity is what we've been talking about all up to this point as diversity. It's the diversity of a particular community. Okay? So I'm using richness to get at diversity. That means this has alpha diversity of 10. The forest has an alpha diversity of 7, and the wetland has an alpha diversity of 3. Okay. Now, I'm scaling up. All right? I now have the ability to compare between communities. So I could compare here between the field and the forest and the wetland, and the field and the wetland. This is beta diversity. It's basically a comparison between two communities within this larger entity that I call the park.